game day.
What's up, everybody in Chiefs Kingdom? We're here on the post-game show. We got Quentin, we got myself, we got Thiz running the show. What's up, man?
Just another classic Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs Bengals game.
Wow. I honestly never expected it to be that close. But again, we talked a bit about this prior to the show, and the refs really tried to give him that game.
The Chiefs tried to give him that game.
So did the refs. I mean, some of those calls were ridiculous. I mean, there was a lot of ridiculous calls there, but it is what it is. I mean, you're going to get that with them. I know the highlight of that game for me was Chase throwing a baby fit.
Yeah, on the non hip drop tackle.
Yeah, McDuffie just owns his ass, man. It's that simple. He had, I think, 38 yards.
Jamar Chase had 4 receptions for 35 yards.
35 yards, yeah.
That's awesome. The only guy that really hurt them was Mike Gesicki. And
yeah, he was on fire.
Maybe this is a conversation for next week or later in the week, but tight ends early on in the year have been really hurting this team.
Yep.
So, we might just put a pin in that for our Thursday show to talk about that because I'll have some time to think about that. But Mike Gesicki, 7 receptions, 91 yards.
Yeah.
On the broadcast, they kept coming back to how the tight ends were not only they were the number 1 receivers for the team, and that it had the most receiving yards a tight end had under a Joe Burrow led offense. So,
and crazy enough, that's actually 2 weeks in a row. That's
what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean by Isaiah Likely last week really hurt this team. So maybe this is something that we keep an eye on for the rest of the year. They're going to go up against some of the better tight ends in football remaining of the year, right? So this is something that we're going to have to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Kelsey, I understand that they're trying to take the pressure off him, but I think he needs to get a little more involved in the game if he wants to be a starter on this team. Because he had basically 3 receptions and one of them was called back.
He had 1 reception for 5 yards.
Yeah, and that's horrid. That's a horrible numbers for him. I know the one that he did catch was called back, and it is what it is. You're going to get that stuff, and that happened last week. If you remember, he caught a nice one last week, and it was called back. So, I don't know. I think he needs to be a little more involved. I did like what I saw out of Wiley today. I thought he did good. The limited time he was in the game. Of course, Rashee Rice did his thing. But who's your defensive player?
Man, my defensive player is pretty easy. It's going to be Chamari Connor. It's not even close. Chamari Connor continues to. I told you, JP, that Chamari Connor was that guy. He had that sack that really put the Bengals away. Obviously, he was a big part in that fumble. As he was the one that returned it for the touchdown. Like, he was all over the field. You see the athleticism that's out there. I see his number, and I keep thinking Rashad Fenton's on this team. But look. It's Chamari Connor. I don't know if there was any other player that had a single big impact like him. There were a lot of guys that got pressure on Joe Burrow today. He was moving around a lot in the pocket. So Karlaftis definitely was one of those guys, but Chamari Connor for me all the way.
Yeah, I have to go with McDuffie. He did his job today. Again, he did everything that he could have done to keep Chase at 35 yards. And he did it. And, there was a couple of plays, well, actually 3 or 4 plays that Chase they lined him up on the other side away from McDuffie as much as they could. And he still didn't he did catch a couple of passes, but it wasn't anything special. McDuffie's just that guy. He really is. He's that guy. They got to figure out a way. And, an honorable mention on the defense is Nick Bolton. He stepped up today.
Led the team in total tackles.
Yeah, Jones did sniff a few of their screen passes. He absolutely did. But I got to give Nick Bolton some credit because last week he took a lot of criticism because of how bad he played.
And he did play poorly.
Yeah. And now he's, he redeemed himself. So I think the entire defense as a whole did a pretty good job.
Look, they were put in a lot of bad positions. The defense was like the offense. You had 3 turnovers, and they just kept them to kicking field goals, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you give Joe Burrow and their offense, 2, 3 extra possessions, especially 2 of those possessions were right there, right? We're already on their side of the field. Yeah, of course they're going to score some points. But the fact that they had 3 turnovers and only scored 25 points, I mean, that is because your defense was able to step up and limit the damage.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at I don't know what was going on offense today. I know they played that too high safety, and they did run the ball a lot today. And they, give the Bengals credit. They never wavered from that too high safety position.
They did not.
You know,
And they talked about that. That was one of the things they talked about in the broadcast, where early in the game they were like, look, they were giving up these runs earlier in the game last week. They've played these safeties back. Well, we're probably going to see them scoot up as the game goes on, and they didn't. They did
yeah,
not.
they stayed
Let
right where they. I mean, they
you
stayed where they started, and I got to
you
give them credit for that.
and you trusted your guys to continue to make plays. Man, I know.
Yeah,
Kingsley looked like a rookie today. Like Kingsley really struggled today with Trey Hendrickson. And I know Trey Hendrickson's a really good defensive end, but this is why we were wondering whether or not they were going to start a rookie at left tackle. It's because
yeah,
of games like this. And
yeah.
they had to take him out of the game because he was just not able to not hold Trey Hendrickson. I mean, there were some of those were so bad, and they didn't call a lot of them, but there were a lot of times where Mahomes stepped up in the pocket, and you saw that he had his arms wrapped around the neck of Trey Hendrickson. So
Yeah,
Trey Hendrickson won a lot.
he did. He did. And I mean, you got to give him credit for that. And that's a rookie. I mean, you're going to have those rookie mistakes, so it happens, especially when you're going up somebody that good. You know, he went up was just against somebody that was awesome. So he's a great player. So we can't really fault him for that. Those are growing pains. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
Wanya Morris, I mean, he made a mistake.
he
As soon
did.
as he got on the field. So
So, literally, as soon as he got on the field, it
yeah,
just shows you how good Trey Hendrickson is.
exactly. Hendrickson's very good at drawing that shit too. He's really good at he jumps. I don't know if you've noticed. If you look at a lot of that, he jumps early and he never gets called for it. He's really good at timing the ball. Really good at it. And he does jump a half second early sometimes, but it is what it is. Uh kind of I mean, I expected it to be a little less. I mean, I thought it was going to be a little more lopsided game. I really did. The way the Bengals played last week and the way we played last week, I thought for sure this was going to be that game where they gelled a little bit, played a little bit better. Rashee Rice, of course, he did his thing. Um, who's your offensive guy?
I really think I really want to give it to Rice, just because I mean he was the main part of the offense today, but I do think that I think I'm just gonna give it to Rice, because he was the dependable target that we usually see from Travis Kelce, and but yeah, I mean 5 receptions, 75 yards. He was open a lot, and it just seemed like Mahomes couldn't get the ball to him. But he also had, the touchdown pass. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Rice.
Yeah, and honestly, I was going to give it to Rice, but I got to give it to Pacheco now because he was he was the grinding force behind that win.
Yeah,
He
19
really,
90 yards. Went out with a little bit of an ankle tweak, but
yeah,
yeah, we'll hear from Andy Reid after that. I'm sure that he's going to get some work done on it, and he'll end up on the injury report. So we'll have some more information on that later in the week. But
yeah,
I do want to talk a little bit about Carson Steele. He got a lot of playing time today. He got a lot of snaps, and I'll just say that I know he fumbled the ball, and he came back and he was 2 hands on the ball, and it looks like he is the real deal,
yep,
out of the backfield. And I know they call him a fullback because I guess technically he is, but to me he's a running back.
yeah,
He looks like the real deal, and it's exciting to see somebody like that. Someone who was a camp darling, a guy we talked about, a guy a lot of people were talking about. You
yeah,
know, not only just making the team, but like he's a guy that's actually making impactful plays for this team, and it's fun to see the guys sort of make that progression. Because
yeah,
a lot of times what happens is we have that that camp guy that everybody falls in love with, and he either won't even make the roster or he just won't be an impactful player at all for the rest of the year. And it's good to finally see somebody that everybody is pulling for that
Agreed.
is making an impact.
I agree. He looked good out there. Yeah, he fumbled the ball. It happens. Um, I don't think he's going to make that mistake again. He's pretty. He's got a hell of a work ethic, and I think he knows he made a mistake. He knows that could have cost him a game. So, and it was probably in the back of his mind the entire game after that because it was so close. And I mean the Bengals had the lead for a
Most of the
majority
game.
of the game. Yeah, so uh, it is what it is. I mean, he's gonna be an impactful player for us for years to come.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be one of those guys we look back at. And I know we do the look back at the drafted players and look at how well he's been. Brett Veach has drafted here in Kansas City, but I
Mhm.
think Carson Steele's going to be that little asterisk and be like, hey, look what he's also done with just guys off the street.
Yeah,
And that's what Carson Steele was as an undrafted free agent. So yeah, I think that he definitely deserves a little bit of shout out there. The other guy that I think we just got to talk about big man touchdown. Everybody
yeah,
loves a
that
big
was
man
awesome.
touchdown.
That was awesome.
At first, I didn't even realize who it was when they threw. I was like, "Who the hell is that?" And then it was Wanye Morris, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Okay, all right, big man touchdown." And now that you won, that gets to be the talk of the locker room, right? Big man gets a touchdown, and everybody loves a big guy getting the ball.
yeah. I had to tag my buddy Joe Valerio in that because he was one of the first Chiefs ever offensive linemen to ever score a touchdown like that back in like '94.
Yeah, didn't
And
he? He had four, right,
I think he did. Um,
over his career. I think he had
over his
four.
career, he had four, but he was like he's known for that because he was so good at it. And he had good hands, and he got out there, stood in the middle of nowhere where nobody thought he'd be. And half the time when Marty would call that in, nobody even knew he was an eligible player. Nobody knew he was an eligible receiver. They just not. I mean, at least on the defense side of the ball. So I had to tag him in it because that was awesome to see. Um, I was a little concerned with Mahomes today. I I don't know what was going on with him. He looked off. It almost looked like how do I say this? It looks like he got frustrated, and
Yeah,
you never see him get frustrated. But he was having an issue getting that ball out, and that
and I
one interception was. I mean, that was just. It was a
the
bad
first
throw.
one or the second one.
I believe it was the second one. It was
The
just right in the
second one
middle of
where
the
he
field.
like just snatched it out of the air.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
no, that was pure athleticism. No, I'm
yeah,
talking about
that's
it
just
was
a
the
great
first
catch.
one.
I mean,
It was the first one.
you can't really make that throw because it's tough coverage. But
Yeah.
honestly, if the ball goes over, the defender and he catches it in stride, that's a touchdown. So
Hmm.
it's like I'm not going to tell my quarterback who has made that play so many times to not make it. You just got to give credit to the defense for making that play.
It was the first one that he threw in the middle of the field. It was about a 16, 18-yard pass, and it was just directly in the hands of a defender.
Yeah, that's the kind of interception I throw on Madden. When I'm
Yeah.
just not watching the linebacker,
Yeah.
like that was a little out of character for him, and I don't know. I think it's kind of just this defense. This defense just totally gives him trouble.
That
Um,
guy, that defensive coordinator
Joe
really knows what he's doing.
Anarumo, is that his name?
Yeah.
He's
He
yeah
knows what
he's
he's
one hell
doing.
of a defensive coordinator.
He is. I would have put him probably second or third in the league right now. Probably
Yeah,
second
especially
because he
because they
he
did
handles
that with
Mahomes.
they did that with just not a lot of talent on the
Yeah.
defensive side of the ball. I mean,
Yeah.
they were missing a lot of key guys on the defense side, especially that
Hmm.
defensive line, which is why I think, the Chiefs were able to run for over 100 yards on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's what that defensive coordinator is able to do consistently is very impressive.
I agree. The one thing I was going to ask you, and I was confused on this. Did you notice that Spags just didn't? I understand why he didn't to a degree, but he didn't run hardly any blitzes on Burrow,
Yeah,
especially in
that
the first three quarters of the game. And I'm thinking, why? Because he's terrible against the blitz, terrible, and
well,
their offensive line's not that great.
it's not only that, it's also just because like they only had Jamar Chase, right, as the only weapon that you're really scared of. And I would if you feel comfortable, if all you have to do is bracket him and cover him, why wouldn't you send a little bit more pressure after him? So yeah, I do think that it's interesting that we didn't see a lot of special blitz packages until towards the end of the game. I mean,
Correct.
because I'm not saying you got to send the house, but like there weren't a lot of corner blitzes or linebacker blitzes where you just send one of them.
Yeah.
Those delayed blitzes that were so effective last year. We just didn't see a lot of it, and that's very interesting. And I hope somebody asks him about that as to why we didn't do it. I mean, you won the game, but you know, it's very interesting why they didn't make that decision to send Connor or even McDuffie out on some of those blitzes.
It kind of makes me wonder because they only had Chase, and then we've struggled against tight ends in week 1. If he didn't know something that we didn't and thought, wait a minute, maybe we got to keep these guys covered,
Yeah,
you know. But Burrow is so bad against the blitz. I mean, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league against the blitz, especially the blindside blitz. So I was confused on that, but I mean, I think as fast as our guys are, they could have gotten up there and gotten to him a lot more than they did. But
yeah,
look, that's why he's the best offensive coordinator in the league, and we're on a radio show talking about why he didn't do something. So,
exactly.
um, anyway, I don't know, man. I'm just glad we won the game. I was confused. I didn't like what I saw.
No, I think that this is one of those games where you're happy you got the win, but you washed this game away.
Yeah,
There's really not, and from a big picture perspective, you didn't do a lot of things well in this game. You
no,
struggled in a lot of areas, and you came out with the win. There's not really one player that I was like, man, you really played mistake-free football. Because there was a lot of mistakes made, and next week you're going up against the Falcons, which I believe is it a Sunday night game?
I think it's Sunday night. Yeah,
Sunday night, yeah, Sunday night game. You're going up against the Falcons, and we'll see what that is, and we'll talk about that game more on Thursday night. But yeah, this is a game that you win, you walk away with the win. You're happy with the 2-0 record, but you kind of just wash this game away.
you have to. It's like a bad golf swing. You just got to put that back in your bag and just move forward. Because if you don't, you're going to have a really bad 18 holes, and that's just kind of how it is with football. You can't let it. You can't dwell on it. You just have to fix your mistakes and move forward. So they're just going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what else I got. Do you got anything else?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, just struggling with tight ends. We're gonna keep that in mind. And
Yep.
then I wanted to jokingly make the joke that Travis Kelce is washed, but I didn't want it to, but I didn't want to piss off too many people.
Oh yeah,
So
no,
I don't know if I'll
he's
say
definitely
that.
not washed. I think they're just kind of, and they may be keeping him healthy, towards the end of the season because they know what they've got on offense. But in the same aspect, when you're playing tougher teams like that, he needs to be more involved.
Obviously, I don't think Travis Kelce is washed. Don't take that
Oh,
out
I
of
know.
context.
I think they know that too. Well, with that being said, I don't know what else we got, but we appreciate everybody for joining, and we will talk to you guys again on Tuesday. Peace out, everybody.